Our next panel is titled How Partnerships Are Solving the Distribution Challenge in P&C Employee Benefits. This discussion will focus on how strategic partnerships can address and overcome distribution hurdles in property and casualty employee benefits. We have an outstanding panel of experts to share their insights with you. So please welcome them.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Alexis Vaughn, founder and CEO of Off Course. We are a strategy consulting firm for the InsurTech and insurance ecosystem. So I'm really excited about this particular topic today because it's literally my entire career. We're going to talk distribution. And the most important piece of this is how partnerships are actually solving the different problems and challenges within the property and casualty space. We have some really great speakers on this panel today, and I know that we're going to get into a really good discussion around all the different things that they're doing to really be innovators in this space when it comes to solving all the distribution challenges. So we'll start first and have our panel introduce themselves and just tell you their name and their company, and then we'll get into the conversation. And feel free, while we're having this discussion, to submit your questions on Slido, and we'll answer them when we get a little closer to the end.
Landon Reed, thank you for joining us today. Chief Distribution Officer of Blitz Insurance. Joined Blitz in January of this year. Prior to that, I was with the Hartford Insurance Group for 7 years, running the Midwest division.
Pleasure to be here. Bruno Sardinha I'm the Chief Innovation Officer of Travelers. I work with an amazing group at our Enterprise Innovation Office. I've been with Travelers for almost 9 years. And before that, I worked in different roles in the insurance industry, from product to distribution and strategy.
I'm John Walheim. I'm at Bolt. At Bolt, we connect insurers and reinsurers and other useful forms of capital that looks to insure risk with distribution partners that have access to customers and businesses that want coverage for their risk. So a platform for insurance distribution. We're the world's largest globally scaled platform doing that in more than 35 countries around the world. I would look after the North America business.
Hello, I'm Cyrus Karai. I'm the co-founder and CEO at CoverForce. CoverForce is an API infrastructure company which can quote, bind, and issue with the leading P&C carriers in the market. Today, we power a number of the top 40 agency networks and wholesalers, and we're currently actually the #1 distribution partner for multiple of the legacy infrastructure companies in the carrier space.
All right, so we're going to get into this discussion. John, we'll actually start with you on this one. So what are some notable distribution strategies and also successful innovations that you've seen when it comes to insurance product offerings through partnerships that are being leveraged within P&C, specifically within distribution, to kind of seize those opportunities in the market?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple. So first, in the direct carrier and the exclusive agent carriers, the battle lines are pretty clearly drawn. You can count the number of Super Bowl ads in order to give you a proxy for how many billions of dollars are spent in marketing. And the hard market means that those carriers themselves haven't been able to offer a product for everyone. Yet they're still paying for those marketing dollars in order to be effective in the geographies where they can. So everybody's focusing on it differently, but offering choice in previously a very direct kind of single carrier environment is one of the ways to monetize the traffic that you're getting. And I think that the way those things are offered, fitting with strategy, is a huge focus and effort over the last couple of years. It's definitely something that saved people's bacon in 2023. Another one I'll call out is now that tech platforms are getting so easy and facile from a customer experience positioning perspective, we have a partner, Tokyo Marine. World Trips is their travel insurance business here in the U.S., And we were able to append device protection onto travel insurance in that kind of one checkbox checkout manner from a customer experience perspective. And that means if you lose your phone in Paris and your flight's the next day, you can get it replaced, which is a really cool innovation and if that's happened to anybody, it has happened to me, it feels like a lifesaver. So that combination of product available on a platform, priced instantaneously, and then able to be positioned in beautiful customer experiences is a really important distribution capability.
Thank you for that, John. Bruno?
Yeah, I would say that more and more we're seeing customers, acquiring insurance products in embedded formats, as well as they do in traditional. The way we look at the market from an insurance carrier perspective is, twofold. First, we look at product complexity in one dimension, so we can think about, the most simple products from warranty, travel, A&H, right, all the way down to more complex like auto, home, and small commercial. But then in the other dimension for us is the distribution model complexity. So think about, again, the most sophisticated embedded types of formats where, probably is a, single clicked, or opt-in, and then you have your protection. On the other spectrum, less complex from our perspective, but potentially where we can offer a choice, right? But those are probably where we're going to require, customers to provide more information, answer more questions, right? It's a little, from an experience standpoint for the customers, got to be a little bit, and also from integration, right, less complex, but, more based on the carrier and less on the distributor. The interesting thing that we're seeing is that, how there's been a shift because of the technology to push more complex products into more embedded formats, right? So I think for us, it is a clear opportunity, but also a challenge to how we're going to be able to have, let's say, API-ready products, kind of end-to-end, to allow that, that experience.
Quick question for you, Bruno. Would you say post-pandemic, you've seen like more embedded products kind of become more of a thing than they were prior to the pandemic?
What we see actually, and we monitor this, is interesting. It's a growth in the number of partnerships announcements between carriers and distributors. The most diverse, models, but definitely more and more opportunities in the embedded space. But I still, again, from our perspective, we still will see a lot of them in that more simple product, right, spectrum. And then it for us is really how we develop, how we think about product, either from ourselves or from, partners to offer solutions to customers. But I think definitely an increase in growing number of partnership announcements. There are still challenges about how you drive flow after the partnership, it's announced. Definitely, there are a number of factors that we can explore a little bit more later, but it's, definitely growing.
That's great to know. Cyrus?
One thing we've noticed, I would say, is that the role of the agent is definitely something which previously was undervalued when it came to partnerships in the distribution space. A lot of times when it came to embedded, a lot of carriers would go directly and try to embed themselves in different experiences. And I think one thing that we've definitely seen is that a lot of carriers are kind of doing a pivot now and saying, we still want to be accessible to banking customers, to payroll end users, to, let's say, association members for hotels and bike manufacturers. But they definitely recognize the value that agents play in both in-sales support and after-sales support. And what we find is there's an increasing trend of carriers that we work with who are pairing us with agents who are already, let's say, actively engaged with an affinity program, a brand that is trusted by the end consumer, and then saying, well, let's just enable that agent to be more digitally accessible, because similar to what Bruno said, speed and comparison are very important in this market. It's a hard market, so comparison is very difficult. But realistically, one thing we've noticed from the end insured is they're so used to instant gratification in their financial services, whether it's banking, checking, credit card products, they're starting to expect that same level of instant, quoting, binding experience when it comes to their insurance now today.
Landon?
I'm going to bridge what Bruno and Cyrus said. So Blitz, we're passionately pursuing optimizing small commercial specialty E&S, which has been a heavily regulated sector that is highly inefficient. And what we're founding is taking actually the broker's perspective and saying, how do we integrate and deliver for the experience for the broker so that they can optimize their client interaction? So we're able to do that with a lot of interest because more folks are paying attention to complex risk and being able to deliver immediate solutions. So we're able to actually partner with folks willing to share data, willing to integrate with our platforms regularly, and actually be more adaptable to how they want to go to market. And what we're able to do with that is actually deliver an API quote bind issue experience with straight throughput on complex specialty risks 70% of the time. And so for the end client, they're eliminating paperwork. They're eliminating the broker's eliminating the need to integrate with digital search, and you streamline the payment process. So the entire process benefits the broker and the client.
Absolutely. I think it's always important to, especially with this panel, I really like that everyone brings a totally different perspective to the distribution when it comes to property and casualty. There's the brokerage, there's the technology. And so, yes, I really, really enjoy that. One of the things that I would love to kind of ask you, Bruno, we'll start with you on this one. What are some key things that you look for in a partnership? And, how do you pretty much measure when it comes to your product offerings and distribution channels? How do you ensure that those partnerships are successful?
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. And, first, it's, the partner has an appreciation, understanding about some of the challenges that carriers challenge in terms of just, the process that we need to go through, the assessment, all the way from, understanding what's the solution that we're going to provide and how we design it, and a lot of times design the solution together. But, understanding, the time that this process takes, it's really important for us. The second point for me is having openness and transparency since the beginning, right, in terms of also the challenges that, the partner has sometimes, so I think, starting from a standpoint where we share what are those, some challenges and then how we can overcome together, it's really important. And I think third point for us, it's really having some track record, some experience, previous experience. And I know some partners it's difficult, but having that experience in working with carriers, working in some solutions and products and developing that, it's also important, and we consider that.
John, from your perspective?
Yeah, we love this conversation during our prep, and
We absolutely
it's
did.
called InsurTech. So yeah, you have to have a great tech platform, but you also have to know a bit about insurance as well, and getting that balance right is really important. So we're proud of being a tech company, but we're also proud to have someone in the audience that figured out how to get cover for Waymo. That's pretty amazing, right? We have people that know what it means to stand up an MGA and can help an entrepreneur through that if there's a coverage gap that we see potential for, because in our distribution side of things, we know that need is there. We have to understand insurance processes and even have regulatory relationships, so that if there's an idea, because we've had the conversation before, we can work the network to say, hey, would this be okay? So all of those things, plus a tech platform's ability to convene the co-op, we call it co-opetition, the people that are cooperating while they're competing, to come together for the greater good. And that's for the greater good of the market participants, but also for society as a whole, particularly around coverage gaps. So
Just heard that phrase today. I like that much better than frenemies.
they're slightly different in the dictionary.
Yeah, absolutely. Landon?
Two things come to mind when we're looking for partners. One is adaptability. So knowing going into partnerships that nothing's going to work as you actually outline it to work. So there has to be a willingness and a commitment to being adaptable. The second part is a genuine curiosity to learn from the partner. If you go into a partnership that's not identified as mutually beneficial, you're already off on the wrong foot. But it's more than that. Is how do you elevate and learn from each other and take the best of that and apply it to yourself?
You know, one of the things that we talked about previously when we had our prep call is when we work specifically at Off Course with with partnerships, when it comes with partnering in InsurTech with an insurer, we have to have a humility conversation first so that everybody will come to the table open. You know, because the insurer is going to have exactly what their needs are, but the InsurTech actually may already be an expert in what they're hoping to build that may take them much longer. So yeah, I think that's really important to even have that conversation very early on, because you can get a lot more done when all the egos are out of the way. Look, I see your face, Cyrus.
I would never claim that insurance carrier is not educated enough about the market. In fact, they know the market very well. They know what doesn't work after years and years of trialing different models. I would say that the role of the InsurTech is sometimes to reimagine how the industry should look. And, you know, there's very famous examples in the banking space of companies like Stripe or Plaid, which have reimagined how people communicate data. I would say in the insurance space, it's slightly different. You are definitely held back by certain regulatory issues, certain ways people like to do business. And I think an InsurTech can very easily come into the market and say, hey, why isn't this entire market embedded or direct to consumer? You know, why do these intermediaries exist, or, you know, what have you? But realistically, the InsurTech, the role is to maybe bring best practices in technology development that exist in other industries and marry them with that knowledge that, you know, what Landon and, you know, what Bruno have said in the past, which is marrying it with that knowledge of how insurance is purchased and how people, you know, need things like assurance from an agent or an individual.
So I know that we love to have our crystal ball of what we think the future is going to look like when it comes to distribution. So what transformative roles within AI and all of the different emerging technologies that are happening, what role do they play in reshaping distribution, specifically within the P&C space? What do you see forthcoming in the future? Any use cases that you have right now or examples that you guys would like to share? We'll start with you, John.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, developer technology. So Microsoft Copilot's the one we've centered on. Like we've gotten exponentially faster in the last few years, and now AI for our developers. So we'll be able to add a carrier, whether they have an API or not, in the near future, based on a description of the product that the underwriter wants to have. Right? I mean, like that's where it's going, and it's going there pretty fast. But second, for choice, when you're far away from the licensed agent in the digital world, I think there's going to be conversational AI, not just to kind of help the customer understand what a deductible is, but also to tell a story about the product that's on the platform, each one, and their pros and cons in a way that's going to be meaningful to them. So I think those are the two, when we think about distribution, that come to mind.
Bruno, from the carrier perspective?
Yeah, I think experience, it's going to be, you know, definitely going to impact how I think customers engage with, you know, carriers, distributors, and, you know, changing the experience to be more personalized, right? I think to enable more efficiency as well from the agent or no distribution partner perspective. You know, it's great to know that we're going to soon be able to connect without needing APIs. But this is, I see that, you know, technology allowing, you know, probably it's going to be some, you know, significant jumps in terms of the experience that, you know, the customers will have with the distribution players or with carriers.
Landon?
I think so the customer experience is at the forefront of our mind, and however you define the customer. But I actually think it moves us from where we've been in many ways of detect and respond in insurance to a predict and prevent. And so I think it's actually going to enhance the capabilities of bringing additional value in the insurance transaction to be able to help that buying customer for whatever product they're buying be able to prevent the experience that they don't want to avoid while they're buying the insurance. And I think that actually being able to do it through AI, where you can actually understand the persona you're selling to, also will help be elevated and accelerated.
Cyrus?
Well, from an InsurTech side, I think definitely, you know, exactly what John said around development. That's the number one case. In fact, I was recently at a VC tech event where they said 80% of startups and Bain Capital Ventures are now using some form of AI to help with their software development. But I would say that when it comes to actually insurance carriers and how they're working with AI, I would say obviously we're still in a trial and error approach. I think some are a bit cautiously looking at it in terms of helping them with underwriting. But realistically, I think it's going to be very siloed specific cases for the next couple of years, just because I think one thing that's really been coming out a lot is you see mistakes pop up with AI. Like the most common one I heard recently was one of the carriers mentioned to me that someone was looking up, was it one of the presidents, James Madison? James Madison had graduated from his MBA in 1998, and I think especially when you're using AI, which even we're looking at using AI for data collection, that's something where we're treading very lightly, and so are the carriers, I think. Bruno, would you agree with that?
I agree. Absolutely.
So this question, I'll start with you on this one, Bruno. So specifically when it comes to API connectivity, how can the adoption of API and even advanced digital communication infrastructure really revolutionize distribution channels?
Yeah, I think again, it's like how we're going to make the process to connect with distribution partners much more efficient. So because the experience that customers want and our distribution partners would like to have is not only, oh, well, when I get a quote on time, I'm going to be able to quote, have a bindable policy, a bindable quote, and then I'm also probably going to have my claims process through my distribution partner, connecting with with the carrier, and I'm going to be able to endorse my policy, have some. So I think from our perspectives, it changed as we think about products, right? With that end-to-end probably API mindset, right? So it's almost you got to rethink your products from that perspective. How we're going to allow that and enable that, in the future. So because we know working a legacy system sometimes more complicated to that. But we are in the journey where Travel is investing significantly in terms of API connectivity to allow us to more and more have our products, offer and connected directly digitally to our distribution partners.
Cyrus, want to add something to that discussion?
Sorry, actually, can I ask you to repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. Of course. So when it comes to property and casualty insurance, how can the adoption of API connectivity and advanced digital communication infrastructure revolutionize distribution channels?
Oh, I mean, the world is going digital no matter what. I think that's the whole idea of APIs, right? I would say the whole idea of an API is it's going to digitize the communication of data. Forever, most people in insurance know 88% of distribution is agents. In PNC commercial, PNC personal is like 40% agents as well. But the question is, why does there need to be an intermediary that is picking up a phone call or answering an email and going back to the carrier? A lot of carriers to this day that we work with, in fact, some of the large top 25 ones still actually receive inbound information from an insured or from an agent via email and phone call as well. So it's not just the agent receiving it inbound and communicating to the carrier, it's the carrier also receiving it inbound by email and phone call. The API is just a way to improve the efficiency of operations of an insurance carrier. It's recognizing that so much of the business is actually, especially in the SMB space, can be digitized. The products themselves can be quite similar, especially in workers' compensation, in the auto space, in general liability, and BOP is maybe sometimes a bit different. Cyber for sure, there's a lot of similarities and overlap between carriers. It's highly commoditized. So the question is, why do you need that significant engine of operating resource and that operating base? That means that you can very easily dip towards losses in any kind of given year as an insurance carrier. APIs are the way of mitigating against the fact that you've got a high operating base.
John, how can optimizing the customer experience and also understanding the customer journey within PNC, how can it contribute to overcoming distribution challenges?
I'll answer the question in the embedded space. Imagine you are an executive at an auto company, and you've seen insurance sold before at a prior company, but you want to do it differently here. The first thing you have to understand is the auto journey. in all of its permutations, and the auto finance journey in all of its permutations, and then come up with a strategy about how to position insurance within that. And then after that, there's expertise on how you offer the choice that's required in order to make a customer comfortable. Because if you only offer one, probably not going to stay, because they'll go on, open a different browser, look for different shopping, and then come back to you, right? So you want to keep them in the brand. So how do you do that? Some of the answer is make sure that the question set is rationalized with itself, simple to follow, and you're pre-filling as much as you possibly can. Because they're not there to buy insurance necessarily. They're there to buy a car or to get a loan for a car, right? So thinking through all of that prevents leakage that can potentially shift them out of the car buying process, right? So it's critically important to gain that trust in the embedded space. The API connections and how fast they are, even from an infrastructure perspective, are really important in all of that as well. And in a past life, I worked a lot with AI right next to a riverbed kind of standard flow for a direct carrier. And when you're able to provide an answer to simple questions that would frustrate you and make you lose your attention for a second, and then all of a sudden your dog has to go out, and then you've timed out the website, timing is everything. So getting a customer experience exactly right is critically important to conversion. So in every way, you have to be really focused on where you're embedding insurance and how the customer experience evidences itself. And it's a truly, it reflects back on the actual product and the carriers that you're doing business with on that panel.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, especially with embedded insurance. I also see it as it's a way to bring insurance to the newer generations who aren't going directly to their parents' agent or broker. So it's putting insurance in front of them in a microwave formation is the way I kind of see it. Bruno, would you like to add to that?
No, I think, again, customer journey is understanding the customer experience and how that's going to evolve with time. I think it's absolutely critical. We continue to, again, invest, time and understanding that and knowing, how can we adjust, how we can keep, evolving in terms of providing a better experience. Because I think, but every time, there's a new technology breakthrough, it's almost that you need to pause and reflect, okay, what is this experience going to look like in the future? With, everybody talking about Gen AI, right? Will people start quoting just by using some prompts, right? We do with ChatGPT as an example, right? So, again, absolutely critical, but it's just that, the importance of, reassessing that experience and those journeys every time there's a new technology coming in, the new ways to offer that, the environment as you think about, hard markets, okay, now that choice becomes more important, okay, so we kind of provide that. So it's challenging because it requires more and more to have flexibility, right, and modularity. And, that's, of course, and as you think about the technology, it is also, something that to really think about and reflect on how you kind of put all that together and, adjust and adapt to an evolving customer need.
Absolutely. Cyrus?
Yeah, I would say similar to what John and Bruno said, is speed is probably one of the number one things that not just agents but consumers think about. I would say one of the other things is you've got to be at that right point in the customer journey when they're actually looking to purchase. I think one of the things that the market learned over the last couple of years is companies like, for instance, QuickBooks, which went into the insurance market, ultimately struggled in the end of the day, and I think they've been shuttering their insurance sales because at the end of the day, people are not buying insurance when they're buying their accounting software. Now, they might be buying their insurance when they're buying their vehicle or, perhaps when they're actually starting to pay their first worker and realize, actually, well, to process payroll, I need workers' comp. But I think people are becoming a little bit more aware when they're forming partnerships. Is this partnership something where I'm capturing the customer at the right part of the journey to ensure, one, they've not already acquired insurance, and two, this is a time when they actually want to buy insurance.
Landon?
I would add not just the part about buying, is like what experience do you want to deliver at their part of the journey, and what technology could you bring forward to do that? And so if at different parts of the journey where they're trying to educate themselves, you have to know, are they going to be comfortable with a chat bot? Are they going to be comfortable? Or are they going to need a human interaction? And what's their propensity based upon product type to seek the different types of outputs? Ultimately, outside of embedded, much of the P&C transaction still requires a human element. So for us, the way we're thinking about it is, in what part of the journey does the human in the loop maximize its value for the client and for ourselves? And I think that part, once you understand the customer journey and where the important weights are in the interaction, you earn trust, credibility, and also build confidence to be able to close and convert the sale.
One of the things that I always think about when I think about all the new ways of distribution when it comes to insurance is I'm always letting our InsurTech partners know it's really important not to leave the senior market out of that strategy when you're building these customer journeys, because a lot of them they may actually want that human interaction piece. They may be talking to their agent and broker. And it's really important that when we're building even these embedded solutions that we try to figure out how to also make sure that it's a customer journey that they can get through as well. So as we kind of come to a close, I would love to know from our panel, how can insurers and even InsurTechs kind of capitalize on partnership opportunities in order to navigate the challenges that are presented by the alternative distribution models in insurance? That could be anything as leveraging InsurTech partnerships and collaborations, or even strategic alliances that enhance the market penetration and even customer engagement. And we can start with you on this, John.
So first, a shout out to our biggest partner in North America, Progressive. And they've been involved with our platform, not only in kind of on our platform, but involved in building our platform. They're demanding, they have great ideas, and they think of themselves as a full part of the ecosystem, which means they've leveraged our platform in order to create experiences that kind of started it from a tech perspective, and then the other way around, insurance perspective as well. And now they're beginning to take that kind of humble, I'll call it a humble position of kind of knowing what their strengths are and what they can add, and then being able to really be facile with the API ecosystem and begin to exert their will, looking for risks that they want more selectively. So I guess kind of get involved, think about the platforms that you want to work with. There's probably not I wouldn't say work with a ton of them, but make sure that the platform you're working with is aligned with your business interests from an insurance perspective.
Absolutely. Bruno?
Yeah, I see this, let's say co-creation, open innovation model. I think that's becoming more important. And I think, again, as I go back to the points that we talked about, the importance of partners that, there's trust, there's openness, transparency, and knowledge and understanding of the insurance business, and the complexities when it comes also to regulatory, all of that, it's very important. But I believe that, and because it is, if you think about, you bring a distribution partner, we probably sometimes bringing a technology-enabled partner, there's a carrier, and in the carrier, you got to bring the product people, like the technology people, the data, it's really, it's an effort that requires a lot of coordination and time. But I see more and more opportunities to, look at different experience, and how we can learn from that and bring partners together to help develop and pursue those opportunities.
Cyrus?
Accelerate them, actually, talking about to speed that you mentioned. It's very important.
Well, we're lucky enough that we have a very good partnership with Travelers. And I would say that one of the reasons I think we do as a InsurTech is because, for lack of a better expression, we stick to our lane. We focus on just executing. And one thing we've learned is that's kind of the role of the insurance carrier often is to find, like Bruno was saying, different people that do different things, whether it's AI and underwriting or APIs for quoting and binding. And I think that's kind of what we do, is we very much just focus on executing in one specific area. And what we've found is that execution is probably the single biggest concern for an insurance carrier or a distribution partner, whether they be a bank a large agency group, payroll provider. They just want to make sure that the InsurTech has a track record of execution.
And Landon?
So I think a variation of this is in partnerships where you capitalize on your strength and be vulnerable to allow the partner to learn from you. So as an upcoming InsurTech, being our nimbleness and the ability to flex our ability to what someone might want to learn from as we're going through our conversion and acceleration process becomes immensely valuable for them, where they may have legacy technology, legacy capital that they're not able to deploy the same way that we can and as quickly as we can, so we can accelerate learning curves for them. The other item that is an accelerant here is in omni-channel distribution. So accelerating, being able to capitalize on everything that you've heard. So APIs, the integrations of data, but being able to deliver it with where the customer is, whether that customer is buying from a broker, from a wholesaler, from an embedded solution. That part is also unique, and that's where InsurTechs and carriers can actually partner very, very well.
So we had 2 questions come in, and this question is for both Landon and Bruno. How can carriers use technology to get closer to their customers while still having agents? So which one of you would like to take it? Bruno?
I can start. Yeah, I think agents are important because they, a lot of time they bring those distribution opportunities for us, and they are. We've seen actually some large, brokers developing capabilities or, buying capabilities to play in that space. So I think it's extremely important. It's part of that ecosystem that I mentioned. And again, to work together and think about the solutions, thinking about how actually we can create incentives to distribution partners. Sometimes it's a B2B2C model, right? That you got to think of B2B2B. So, and helping us, understand, the customers of our distributors and bringing those opportunities along. For us, I think it's a fundamental part of that.
Yeah, I think knowing that you're likely not seeing that customer without the broker is where your starting point. So the key is to elevate the broker. And I think the one opportunity that is under-realized right now is the activation of data to help inform and educate the broker to help bring additional value to their client. So particular industry insights that you might have if they're working with a particular industry, contractors as an example, to be able to bring forward loss control recommendations or other items that might be specific to that client's type of risk or other ways that actually differentiates the broker. So being focused on activating data, activating insights to inform and elevate the value the broker brings to their client.
Our next question is, given the term partnership is often loosely used in InsurTech, influenced by grow at all costs, what steps are you taking to ensure successful partnerships? Maybe we can start with you on this, John.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's motivated from perhaps a negative experience or two.
That's what it sounds like.
So, I'll go back to the InsurTech thing. The chairman of our board and our group CEO, Rob Shimmick, was the guy at AIG who figured out how to return $160 billion with interest to the Treasury after AIG took TARP. So he is a master of understanding the steady flow of capital necessary to operate a business. And so the insure part of us and that financial acumen means everything we do, we are super partner-focused, partner-led, and we're going to grow at a pace that works for everybody. We truly do see our position as a significant, a systemically important exchange, particularly for the people that are already our customers, and for us to grow to where we want to grow, not at all costs, but evenly and with the right pace, is really important to everybody concerned. So I think it's a matter of the management team and being pretty clear and careful about what your long-term mission is.
Bruno, would you like to add from a different perspective?
I think again it's we always talk about travel is about profitable growth, right? It's for us it's how we can sustain the profitability over time. Otherwise, the incentives are not aligned, and the incentives need to be aligned for everybody, like for those partnerships to be successful and sustainable over time, right? Because one thing is important, especially as you think about embedded or alternative distribution, there's a lot of investments up front that needs to be made in order to make that successful. So again, making clear what are let's say the objectives and key results for that partnership right up front. That's how I go back to the transparency and openness are extremely important. So what are we going? And sometimes, okay, there's a period that we're going to be learning, because I understand also that not all the assumptions are going to be correct right up front. But it's important that we know as soon as we go through that learning stage, we kind of set up those combine and align key results to be measuring and adjusting the partnership over time.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. You have added to a phenomenal discussion around how partnerships are solving a distribution challenge in PNC. Everyone, please give our panelists a round of applause.